Good evening. This is the September 18th, 2024 meeting of the Planning Board. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, members of the Planning Board. The first item on the agenda is an extension of conditional final approval for map of Gemini Landing 2 in Fort Salonga, and we have the affidavit of posting. The applicant requests an extension of conditional final approval for the subdivision number 1181, map of Gemini Landing 2. The subdivision number 1181, map of Gemini Landing 2, received conditional final approval for a two-lot subdivision from the Planning Board on September 2nd, 2020. Conditional final approval expired on August 12th, 2024. The applicant submitted a request for a seventh extension on August 8th, 2024. The applicant requires additional time in order to file the subdivision in the office of the Suffolk County Clerk. The Planning Department has no objection to the request and recommends an extension period of 180 days. The Planning Department offers the following resolution for the Board's consideration. Whereas the Planning Board has considered the request of Vincent J. Tremarco to extend the conditional final approval for the subdivision known as number 1181, map of Gemini Landing 2, now therefore be it first resolved that the Planning Board hereby approves a 180-day extension of time to the conditional final approval for the subdivision known as number 1181, map of Gemini Landing 2, to expire on February 8th, 2025.
Mr. Tremarco?
Good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant. We've submitted the affidavit of posting to Mr. Colato. We respectfully request you follow the recommendation of the Planning Department. Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard on this matter? Are there any questions from the board? Hearing none, in the matter of number 1181, map of Gemini Landing, we close the hearing.
I second.
All those
Aye.
opposed? None. The hearing is closed. In the matter of extension of conditional final approval, number 1181, map of Gemini Landing 2, I move that we adopt the resolution as read in accordance with the recommendation of the Planning Department.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. The motion is adopted.
Thank you.
The next item is item 2, a preliminary subdivision for number 1195, map of Jamie Anita Estates in Esconset, and we have the affidavit of posting. The applicant requests preliminary approval to subdivide a 1.46 acre parcel into 3 lots with single-family dwellings. The preliminary subdivision number 1195, map of Jamie Anita Estates, consists of 1 tax lot located in the R15 zoning district. The site is surrounded by R15 zoning and single-family dwellings. The site has 90 feet of road frontage on Lake Avenue and 50 feet of road frontage on Westminster Court South. There is an existing single-family dwelling and detached garage to remain on Lot 3. Access to Lot 3 will remain via Lake Avenue. The 2 new dwellings on Lots 1 and 2 will have access to Westminster Court South. The topography of the site is flat, ranging from approximately 116 feet to 117 feet above sea level. There are no high groundwater or surface water features on the property. All 3 lots comply with the minimum lot area, front yard setback, and rear yard setback for the R15 zoning district. The 2 new dwellings will comply with the minimum required side yard and total side yard setback for the R15 zoning district. The subdivision received the following variances from the Board of Zoning Appeals. That's case 18626. Lot 1, reduce minimum road frontage from 40 feet to 25 feet. Reduce minimum lot frontage from 100 feet to 95 feet. Lot 2, reduce minimum road frontage from 40 feet to 25 feet, and reduce minimum lot frontage from 100 feet to 95 feet. And on Lot 3, reduce minimum lot frontage from 100 feet to 90 feet for the existing home. Reduce minimum side yard setback from 16 feet to 4 feet for the existing garage, and reduce total side yard setback from 34 feet to 27 feet. The Department of Highway, Engineering, Traffic Safety, and Environment and Waterways have reviewed the preliminary subdivision application and offer the following comments for the board's consideration. 1, the Traffic Safety Department has found the preliminary subdivision acceptable and recommends each proposed driveway turn 90 degrees into the existing cul-de-sac or a shared driveway be implemented. The Traffic Safety Department also indicated there's an existing streetlight within the proposed area of the two driveways. The streetlight may have to be relocated, and the underground power supply may also have to be replaced, upgraded to incorporate conduit sleeves for the new driveway aprons. 2, the Engineering Department has found the preliminary map acceptable, subject to a condition related to grading and drainage on the final plat. 3, the Highway Department has found the preliminary subdivision acceptable. They will require all cracked or broken curb be replaced and road opening, closing permits for the driveway aprons. 4, the Department of Environment and Waterways has found the tree preservation and land clearing plan acceptable and recommends a secret negative declaration for the application. The Department of Environment and Waterways also recommends conditions related to land clearing and site preparation work. These conditions will be added to any final approval granted to this subdivision. The Department of Environment and Waterways offers the following resolution for the board's consideration. Whereas the Planning Board has considered the seeker recommendation from the Department of Environment and Waterways, now therefore be it first resolved that the Planning Board, after due study and deliberation of the subject record, issue a secret negative declaration, determination of non-significance. An EIS is not necessary in the matter of the application for subdivision approval for Medford Forest, Inc., for number 1195, map of Jamie Anita Estates, for the following reasons. A, the proposal does not involve the destruction or physical modification of any unique or highly valuable environmental or cultural resources as identified in or regulated by the environmental conservation law of the state of New York or Smithtown Town Code. B, the parcel does not appear to contain any high groundwater conditions, poor soil properties, or unmanageable slopes, which would impose severe environmental development constraints upon the subject proposal. C, the nature of the proposal mitigates a significant adverse impact upon the environment. D, the proposal appears to be consistent with the planned use of the subject parcel and compatible with neighboring land uses. E, while the proposed subdivision location is in the vicinity of bats listed as endangered or threatened by the New York State DEC, protection of bats will occur since the applicant must coordinate with the New York State DEC Regional Office concerning the restrictions on construction activities that must be adhered to in order to protect the bats. The applicant must also provide evidence to the Environmental Protection Director that they are aware of these restrictions and will abide by them prior to the granting of final approval of the subdivision. F, while the accessory structure will remain on Lot 3, all water lines, drainage pipes, and plumbing fixtures have been removed from the structure so that it cannot be used as a residence and it will not generate wastewater. And G, the tree preservation and land clearing plan prepared by Pat T. Secafico, licensed land surveyor and dated May 5th, 2023, provides for the retention of a significant amount of existing trees and natural vegetation upon development of the subject parcel. Such preservation shall be ensured by the placement of snow fencing or orange mesh construction fencing along all limits of clearing and around any individual trees to be preserved within the clearing areas. This shall be done to the satisfaction of the Environmental Protection Director, and said fencing shall be maintained in place by the applicant until the completion of all land clearing and grading activities at the subject parcel. The Planning Department offers the following resolution for the board's consideration. Whereas the Planning Board has considered the request of Medford Forest, Inc. for preliminary approval to subdivide a 1.46 acre parcel into 3 lots. Now therefore be it first resolved that the Planning Board hereby approves the preliminary subdivision, number 1195, map of Jamie Anita Estates, subject to the following conditions. A, the applicant shall create a shared driveway or shall create 2 driveways that turn 90 degrees into the existing cul-de-sac for lots 1 and 2. B, all drainage shall be designed for 3-inch rainfall and approved by the Town Engineering Department. C, prior to the granting of final approval for the subdivision, the applicant shall provide evidence to the Environmental Protection Director showing that the applicant has contacted the New York State DEC Regional Office concerning the restrictions on construction activities in order to protect bats in the vicinity and that they will be abide by these restrictions. Second, resolve that the preliminary approval shall be valid for a 6-month period to expire on March 18th, 2025.
Thank you, Matt. Mr. Tramarko?
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tramarko. I represent the applicant. We've reviewed all the conditions of the various departments in the town with my client. He is agreeable to all of them and asked the board to accept the recommendation of the planning department. Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard on this matter?
Just go up to the mic and name and address, please.
And please spell your name for the stenographer.
My name is Phyllis Bochensky. That's B as in boy, Ochenski.
Thank you.
My property is right adjacent. It's the northwest property. And my objection to this whole thing, I understand they're going to build. I'm not happy about it, but it is what it is. The only problem that I have is the driveways. Is there any way that they can open up that street so they will have a curb and a street in front of their houses?
I guess Mr. Tramarko can answer that question? Is that something that's... Well, is there anyone else who wishes to speak after this speaker? No? Okay, well then, is that the only question you have?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Tramarko can address that.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I mean, the planning department can answer that as well.
Oh, okay.
There were numerous hearings over a year ago. This application's been kind of dormant. It went to the Board of Zoning Appeals as well as to the Planning Board. And the designs went back and forth, whether or not to extend the cul-de-sac, to, whether further dividable properties to the north. And the consensus was that the homeowners all wanted the cul-de-sac to remain as is. They didn't want the existing curbs removed. They were gonna, well, I was at the hearing, I'm pretty familiar.
Yes.
And this was determined to be the least
Yes.
impact of all, was to just bring two
Didn't we
driveways.
also table it and come back with that?
Yeah, we had numerous
Yeah.
hearings.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, when the residents spoke, they came up with a proposal, if you will.
We had
and
a
said,
design
"Okay, let's
extending the
stop
cul-de-sac."
and Yeah, and that was exactly one of the options. And we stopped and tabled that until further studies were done, and, this is the result of it. But that definitely was deliberated, and,
The
again,
residents in the area were not in favor of that, what you're saying. There were a couple of options, opening up the street, and then the town didn't want to pay for the maintenance of the street. So that was canned. Then they had a P cul-de-sac.
Yes, I remember.
They can
Yes, yes.
do an hourglass cul-de-sac, because the builder didn't want to pay to straighten out my property and the house opposite me. So they did not, the builder did not want to go through the expense of moving the cable, the sewers, the electric, the gas. So it was the builder who was opposed to doing that. We were for it because we want the new houses to have a curb, a street in front of their house.
And that is where we, at that meeting where it came up, we tabled it to have further studies done. Am I correct? And then, once those studies were done, they said, nah, that idea that we asked them to go back and take a look at, the idea of the residents, okay, it was
'Cause
not
I was the
feasible,
one that
was not
suggested
feasible, but they
cutting-
went back and did, yes, and they went back and did a study and said, no, it's not feasible. And this was all,
And what was the reason for it not being feasible?
I don't remember the details of it, but whichever departments we kicked it back to,
Yeah, it was reviewed by highway, engineering, traffic safety.
and they said, no,
They
you just
analyzed
can't,
everything.
And they just didn't want to maintain the street.
No, it was more than that. It was deemed that there were not developable properties to the north. There was outcry from a couple of the neighbors saying that they didn't want the existing curbs and their driveways impacted because existing drainage structures would have to be removed from
the
their
whole-
Well, that
property.
was
Yes.
because the builder was going to have to extend our driveways. And he didn't want to do it because he didn't want to inconvenience us.
This
But
board
that was
doesn't,
because the builder didn't want to pay for
this
it.
board looks at what's correct. They don't look at what it's going to cost the developer. If they feel that this is the more appropriate thing to do. And that's what happened here. This was determined to be the least disruptive to everybody, was to utilize the existing cul-de-sac and to just have
The
two
least
driveways.
disruptive as far as the building of it, because they do not have a front street. They get a delivery, they're parking in the cul-de-sac.
Yeah, I'm sure they're
You know,
doing the
snow,
same thing at
snow
your house, too.
removal. They
Yeah.
put all the snow in that cul-de-sac. Where are they putting the snow?
There are other subdivisions around town that are similar, where multiple driveways are coming out onto the cul-de-sac. The highway department reviewed this map, and the highway department
But
determined
the
that this is
houses are
acceptable.
facing the street. These houses are not facing the street. The side of their houses is facing the street.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but we're looking at road frontage and whether the house is positioned 90 degrees or 45 degrees to the road.
So
They
how
still
would-
have access.
How would you consider, what kind of a property lot is that? Is it considered an interior lot, a corner lot, an L-shaped lot?
I would call it a residential lot with 25 feet of road frontage. If you look on the map, you can see what they determined the front yard to be. So you have this dashed line that's meeting the front yard setback of 45 feet. So you have a road frontage at the very bottom that's 25 feet wide, and going back 45 feet, that's your front yard. And you can see this arc that goes from the property corner.
So that's what they're considering the 40-foot footage.
That's 25 feet of road frontage, because the road is 50 feet wide. So you split that in half, so each house has 25 feet of road frontage, and they each have a 45-foot front yard in an arc going from the corner.
Okay, and where would their garages be?
Presumably, I mean, this is just a spec building that they put on a subdivision, but presumably it'd be the end of this driveway. They may decide, so this is what you see in the dashed line, that's the building envelope. They could build a house anywhere within that envelope, whether it's positioned sideways or frontways, that can be changed later. They may decide to do an L-shaped house where the garage goes straight out. We don't know. That's part of the building permit process. This board's role is to just lay out the subdivision.
All right, I can't fathom how two houses are facing one another, no street in front of them. All right, so it's a done deal then?
This is preliminary subdivision that they're asking. After this, there would be another hearing for final subdivision, but presumably if the board approves this, the next hearing is basically just establishing the performance bond and things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sir? Name and address, and also spell your name, thank you.
My name is Kevin Carney. I live at 260 Lake Avenue South. My last name is Kearney. I just want to make one observation. You reminded me of something I raised last year when you said that we determined there were no developable properties to the north. The two properties to the north are currently for sale. And one of them, as you told me, is landlocked.
Yeah, so that has come to our attention as well. I'm trying to bring it up here. And we determined that there were numerous lots. I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parcels to the north that potentially could access, because there was no interest at one time, I guess at that time, by one of the builders, by one of the property owners, that it is feasible, if all of the property owners got together, that you could possibly bring in a cul-de-sac or some sort of a roadway off of Lake Avenue that would provide access to those lots. Not all of them are subdividable, but if combined into a subdivision map, something could be assembled where potentially 1 or 2 homes could be built.
I believe those 2 lots behind me are already divided, or whatever you call it. They're 2 separate lots.
Yeah, I don't know enough information about the two lots, but the one lot had a violation on it, or a presumed violation with an accessory structure being utilized. I don't know that it's a buildable lot because there is no road frontage to it. It could have been a division of property without going through the town, because we certainly don't have these two lots. If somebody came in for a building permit marker for a house, that would not be granted because they don't have road frontage.
But you're preventing them from having road frontage, so.
I see what you're saying, but if you see this road and your property, I believe you're the one that fronts on Lake Avenue. So we
north
entered,
of it, Yeah.
yeah, so we did review this, and again, I don't have those drawings with me because that was a year ago, and we had all the hearings, and that was the determination of the board that they weren't going to extend the cul-de-sac. But the cul-de-sac was gonna be, if it was brought north, there was no way that it was gonna touch your property. There was no way that it could be brought at
I
that.
understand that, I'm not objecting to that.
Yeah.
But I simply wanted said that you said there were no developable properties, and there is somebody going to develop that property. It's an acre and a quarter.
I misspoke in that there's not developable, but it was determined that there would be no additional lots brought to this roadway. It could be developable if arranged in a certain way with adjoining neighbors. So your property, not that that's the subject of this hearing here, and I don't know enough about the square footage, but your property, if, let's say you have a large piece of property and you wanted to split the back off, you would need to have road frontage. You don't have the road frontage. However, if you combined with some of your neighbors, potentially you could come in with a subdivision.
And I've also spoken to the person representing those two parcels, real estate people, and I recommend they reach out to Tramarko's office, they reach out to you and the other property owners, and that was at least whenever the property went for sale. So have they reached out to you?
I've spoken to 2 real estate agents,
Have
yeah.
they reached out to you, Mr. Tramarko?
No, you haven't.
I'll speak to you.
Well, I'm not looking to sell, I'm just.
I know,
making-
but he
making the
can't,
point.
I understand, and I agree with you, and I've recommended they all reach out to each other, but if nothing's happened, you can't just sit around it's been 2 years, you can't just sit around, he can't be at your mercy waiting to see if
Well, I
people
was-
are interested.
I wasn't attempting to stop the action tonight, I was just pointing out, basically, that you made a wrong statement and you're creating I forget the term, but you box people into a corner. I don't know how they get out of it.
I don't necessarily agree with that, but.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else want to be heard on this matter? Are there any questions from the board?
Nope.
Okay, then, in the matter of number 1195, map of Jamie Anita Estates, I move that we close the hearing.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? The hearing is closed. In the matter of number 1195, map of Jamie Anita Estates, I move that we adopt the recommended secret negative declaration.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? The motion is adopted. And in the matter of subdivision preliminary approval, number 1195, map of Jamie Anita Estates, I move that we adopt the resolution as read in accordance with the recommendation of the Planning Department.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? The motion is adopted.
The next item is a waiver amendment request for number 591 Planned Industrial Park in Comac. We have an affidavit of posting, but it's my understanding that the applicant wants to adjourn.
Posting is good now.
Okay. Are we going to go to read it again, or should we just,
No, it's the same memo I read into the
Okay.
record last meeting.
Mr. Tramarko?
Yeah, this is the industrial park.
Yes.
We're requesting an adjournment. We need to further investigate. There's encroachments into that buffer, and we need a little more time to talk to the town and work it out, so.
Okay, do do you think that the next meeting, which is October 16th, probably by that time we should
Yeah,
have,
that's
we should be
good.
resolved, right?
Right.
Okay, great. All right.
Thank
then
you.
we'll do that.
To the 16th?
I can't hear you,
Is-
Jeff.
Is that
Is
enough
that
time?
enough time?
Is that enough time, or do you,
Yeah,
the
that's
next
enough
meeting
time. We
can
after
push
that
it
is
to
November
November.
13th? Do you think you might need a little more time, Mr. Chamaco?
No, I don't think so.
You can
We're
have
good.
the time if you want.
No,
You good?
I'm good.
Okay,
I think, okay.
okay.
You're good.
All right. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard on this matter? Are there any questions from the board? In the matter of number 591, Planned Industrial Park, I move that we adjourn the hearing to the October 16th, 2024 meeting of the Planning Board.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? The motion is adopted.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good night. Okay, then, I move that we adopt the minutes of the August 7th, 2024 meeting of the Planning Board.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? The minutes are adopted. And then I move to adjourn this meeting.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned.